Hey third graders, welcome to Module 5, Lesson 13, or 13/30ths of all the fraction lessons. Today we're going to identify a shaded fractional part in different ways depending on the designation of the whole. What that means is that when the whole changes, how does the fraction change? This lesson today is a little strange, so just bear with me. And we'll talk about it more in class tomorrow too. So this is just to get you thinking. All right, so today's lesson makes so much sense that it is kind of confusing. To see what I mean, let's go ahead and take a look at this almond bar here. Now, this bar right here is going to be my one whole. So I'm gonna trace it just so that you guys can see. Oop, kind of hard to trace. All right, so this bar is my one whole. Now, let's say that this is Madison's bar, and then Katie comes along and she says, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, I forgot my snack. And so Madison says, here, you can have half of my bar. So we cut it in half, and now Katie gets half, and Madison gets half. It's a little crumbly. So we'll draw a line where our half is. So now Katie has one half of the bar and Madison has one half of the bar. All right, that's cool. That's fine and good. That makes sense. You guys know this part. All right, so now Katie is on the playground and then April walks up to her and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I forgot my snack. Well, now this is Katie's whole bar. So even though it's not the size that it started out when Madison had it, this is all that Katie has. So Katie has, this is her one whole. So then Katie wants to fair share it with April. So she says, okay, you can have one half of my bar. Okay. So now the part that Katie has left is one half of her original whole. Okay, so here's what changed. When our whole changed, the amount that our fraction meant changed. So here we have one half of a whole big bar. And here our whole is half of a big bar. So our whole is the half of the big bar, and then our piece, is half of a big bar. So even though we could use the same fraction one half, it's like our unit changed. So here we have half of a big bar, and here we have half of the whole big bar. So we could still use the fraction half, but what whole we talk about matters. And that's like the lesson that we did yesterday where we talked about you can use the same unit fraction to describe different wholes. All right, let's try some more. All right, so today we're going to do our notes together. So on your notes today for A, I want you guys to draw a pizza. My pizza is kind of lopsided, so I'll try to fix it. All right, so we have our pizza, and we cut our pizza into half. And Gage says, I would like this half, please. And Trevor says, I would like this half, please. So how much do each Gage and Trevor get when we have the whole pizza? So Gage would get a half, and Trevor would get a half. So go ahead and write that down because this is the part that you guys already know. Okay, so let's draw that same pizza again right next to it. And so we have half the pizza. And Trevor is chomping on his pizza, but then Gage's sister comes in and she says, Gage, could I please share that pizza with you? And so Gage says, oh, okay. So now this is Gage's whole. How much of the pizza is Gage going to give her? So we can think about this in two ways. If we thought about the pizza here as the whole pizza and Gage cut his piece in half, and we could imagine that this part was cut in half too. So Gage would get how much and his sister would get how much. Go ahead and write that and press pause and press play. All right, so if we're thinking about the whole pizza, then Gage gets a fourth of the whole pizza and his sister gets a part of the whole pizza. So they would each get 1/4 of the whole pizza. But if we were just talking about Gage's piece of pizza, how much of the pizza piece is Gage getting and how much is his sister getting? So if we cut Gage's whole piece of pizza in half, then Gage would get a half of that and his sister would get a half of it. So on here, we're gonna write that they each get 1/2 of a piece of pizza. Or they get half of a pizza. So we're talking about the same piece right here, but we have two different ways to think about it. So what's our whole? What we started with when Trevor was part of the equation, or is the whole just the piece that Gage had to share with his sister? All right, let's try another one. So on B, there's a cake. And it's divided into 4 pieces. How much is each piece worth? Good, each piece is worth 1/4. But let's say that we have one of those pieces of cake and we decide to cut this piece of cake into 4ths so that we can share it with 4 people. Let's go ahead and cut that piece of cake into 4 equal pieces. Now, I don't want you to label the unit fractions on the piece that we cut up as the whole cake, because now we just have a piece of cake. How much is each section of this piece of cake worth? Each piece of this piece of cake is worth 1/4. All right, so if we're talking about the whole cake, this is a 4th, but if we're just talking about the piece of the cake, that is a 4th. Kind of cool. Let's go ahead and do another one. Okay, so this time if you have, let's do a pie. And you cut it up into 3 equal pieces. What's the unit fraction of 1 piece? They're giant pieces. Yeah, so 1 piece is 1/3 because we have 3 equal pieces. Now what if we just took 1 piece of that pie and we cut it up into 3 equal pieces? So remember, draw 2 lines to make 3 pieces. How much is each piece now? Now that the whole is the 1 piece of pie that we've cut into 3 pieces, how much is each piece of the piece of pie? Yeah, each of these is 1/3 of the piece of pie. So this would be 1/3 of the whole pie, and this is 1/3 of the piece of pie. So we could use 1/3 to describe both, but our units are different. Our whole is different. All right, here's your final problem for tonight. So I would like you guys to draw 2 similar rectangles, and we're going to take the big rectangle and divide it into thirds. How much is the shaded part? And then we're going to take this shaded part and imagine that we cut it into 3 pieces. How much is this shaded part of our new whole, which is just 1 piece of the rectangle? So you're going to write the fractions, write the units, or write what the whole is, and that's it. We're going to be working on this a lot more in class tomorrow, and hopefully through a lot more hands-on examples, it'll start to make sense. All right, you guys, good job today, and we will see you tomorrow.